Does God hear your prayers? The Law of God's Divine Timing. Storytime by ByT.Santoro. Does God hear your prayers? Have you ever wondered why the things you pray for do not appear right away? The truth is, divine timing is never random. It is purposeful, exact, and alive in your life right now. As you stay with this story to the end, you will discover how every season of waiting carries wisdom, and how stillness itself becomes a gateway to God. Let this be your sign today that God hears you. Let's begin our story. We return to Professor Alex Stone, a familiar face at the local university, where he teaches philosophy with care and passion. Yet beyond his love of philosophy, he carried another longing, a desire to share about God and the mysteries of the Spirit. On this day, as the professor prepared for his talk, he sensed a quiet but undeniable shift in the room. Something felt different, as though the air itself was waiting. He knew this lecture would not be like any other. Today, he had the honor of sharing what lived deeply within him: God. Chapter 1. When Heaven Whispers Back. Professor Stone stood at the lectern and looked across the room at the students who had signed up for this special class on God. He drew in a single deep breath and smiled softly. Turning to the whiteboard, he lifted a marker and wrote a question that was simple yet profound. Does God hear our prayers? And if God does, why do the answers not come at once? Jill, a philosophy student, raised her hand. That is a very intriguing question, Professor. Professor Stone smiled warmly in recognition of his former student. Yes, Jill. It is a question worth holding in your heart. Let us go a bit deeper, for the answers will naturally begin to unfold as we continue. He gestured back to the whiteboard and wrote another question. Have you ever set a timeline for something you have been praying for, only to notice it never arrives as the days pass without a breakthrough? Does it sometimes feel as though your prayers to God are going unnoticed? Patty leaned forward and spoke. Professor, I thought we were not supposed to question God, only to have faith that prayers will be answered. But I will admit, sometimes I feel as if God is ignoring me. Why would God do that? That is a powerful question, Patty. Professor Stone replied with a calm smile. You want to see the unfolding steps, as if to watch your prayer being stitched together piece by piece. What I want you to know is this: even when you cannot see it, the shifts are happening. Silence does not mean absence. What looks like delay is not rejection. God is not ignoring you. God is aligning you. He paused, letting the stillness deepen around them. Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Timing is not random. It is precise. A seed planted in the earth gives no immediate sign, yet beneath the soil, roots form and stretch toward life. The waiting does not deny the seed. The waiting strengthens it. Maya raised her hand gently. Then, if I am waiting, does that mean my prayer is actually aligning? Or am I only fooling myself? Professor Stone's eyes softened. Maya, delay is often the very proof that your dream has substance. God's alignment takes time because blessings of depth cannot be rushed. As Plato said, the beginning is the most important part of the work, and beginnings often look like stillness. Chapter 2. Are you ready to carry what God has prepared? Professor Stone moved toward the whiteboard and wrote a single question. What are spiritual laws, and are they bound by time? He turned, his voice steady. Infinite wisdom does not submit to clocks. It honors to spiritual law, cause and effect, order and readiness, alignment and integrity. These are the true measures of time. He smiled, lowering his voice. Napoleon Hill said, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. The date on a calendar is never as important as the character being shaped while you wait." From the center row, Noah shifted uncomfortably and spoke aloud. But Professor, what if time is the problem? Tuition is due. Rent comes on the first. Health fades with age. Even relationships come with timelines. Professor Stone turned to him with compassion. Yes, Noah, the calendar does matter for schedules and deadlines. But when it comes to outcomes, spiritual law holds the final word. Romans chapter 8, verse 28 declares, "All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to God's purpose." That truth never expires. Where you see deadlines, God sees design. Delay is alignment, fitting you for the blessing you have asked for. The professor paused and said, "When you align with your true purpose, you no longer press against what was never meant for you. You prepare for what is. And when the right doors open, you will not just step inside, you will remain and flourish." Chapter 3. The dream learns to trust the dreamer. Curious yet skeptical, Elena leaned forward from her seat in the front row. "How do I know if I am ready?" "I pray. I journal. I try to trust. What else can I do?" Professor Stone met her eyes with gentleness. "Let me ask you this, Elena. How would you hold the blessing if it arrived today? If you are seeking a relationship, and the person you have prayed for walked into your life, could you meet them with tenderness even on the days when your spirit feels weary? Could you let love flow through your words so that kindness becomes the language you share together? Or if what you are praying for is healing and your body aches, could you nurture that healing with acceptance and a steady belief that restoration is already unfolding within you?" The lecture hall grew quiet as his words lingered. "You do not receive only what you want," Professor Stone continued. "You receive what you are truly prepared for." He lifted his eyes as though he wanted every student to catch the weight of his words. Isaiah in the Bible, chapter 40, verse 31, says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Waiting here does not mean sitting with folded hands. Waiting means active alignment. It means living each day with trust, discipline, and expectancy. From the back of the room, another student leaned forward with full attention. "Professor, is there a way to measure alignment?" "Willie," Professor Stone said with warmth, "Carl Jung once wrote, 'Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.' Alignment grows as you bring awareness into your thought patterns and choose to direct them toward love and order. When alignment deepens, your language becomes clean. Your attention grows steady. Your habits serve your highest aim. And then the dream learns to trust the dreamer." Chapter 4. The stillness of your mind opening to the flow of God's blessings. Jamal, who had been listening with full attention, lifted his hand. "Professor, how do I hold on to faith? How do I trust that my thoughts are aligning with my life?" Professor Stone walked to the center of the stage, his voice calm and steady. "Jamal, it is in the stillness of the mind that you find your gateway to God. Stillness is presence without distraction. In that stillness, you are seen by God with pure, unconditional love. There is no judgment and no ego, only the freedom of God's presence. It is in stillness that our prayers begin to align with the physical." Jamal hesitated. "I want to understand this more clearly." Professor Stone smiled softly. "Picture this. God's timing is the process of aligning you for what you are ready to receive. Each thought you choose is like planting a seed in your mind. Ask yourself, am I planting my desires in fertile soil or in soil tangled with weeds? The seed is your desire. The soil is your belief in God. The weeds are your doubts." The professor wrote across the whiteboard for all to see. "Stillness trains confidence without applause." Turning back to the students, he added, "Neville Goddard taught that you must assume the feeling of your desire as if it were already fulfilled. In stillness, you step into your higher self. And remember this, stillness is not escape. Stillness is preparation. It is the practice of standing as the one who already carries the blessing." Chapter 5. The training ground of God's timing. From the back row, Tony raised his hand. "What if I am stuck?" Professor Stone looked across the lecture hall. "A person who treats waiting as training is never stuck. for they understand this is their workshop. Every delay becomes a lesson for the soul. The more you focus on the desires you hold, the more patience grows, and clarity sharpens. Maya spoke softly. Professor, that sounds poetic, but how do I bring this into my everyday life? What is one practice I can start right now? Professor Stone nodded. Choose one desire you have been praying for. Each day, spend 5 minutes seeing it, feeling it, and believing that it is already present in your life. For example, for the next 7 days, before you even rise from bed, begin with gratitude. Give thanks for the breath in your lungs. Then, in your mind, see yourself living out one of your desires right here and now. Remember, each thought you begin your day with, whether positive or negative, creates motion. Over time, that motion becomes momentum that shapes your life. This is the secret to the law of manifestation and the law of action. Even when you cannot see these laws at work, know this: they are always moving, always aligning, always alive behind the scenes. Chapter 6. God's timing, preparing you for the blessing. Elena pressed her hand against her notebook, a sigh escaping her lips. Her words carried both longing and fatigue. I want healing in my body. I am trying so hard. Why would God hold this blessing back and make me wait? Professor Stone leaned in, his voice soft yet sure. Elena, blessings are not delayed to hurt you. They are delayed to protect you. A gift in unsteady hands can become a burden rather than a blessing. Just as a loving parent withholds the car keys from a child, it is not from lack of love, but from a desire to honor safety, nurture growth, and respect timing. Readiness does not mean flawlessness. It means humility paired with daily order. When those two walk together, what once felt impossible will one day rest in your hands with ease. Healing comes quietly, step by step, as your spirit and your body learn to trust each other again. From her seat near the exit, Janet spoke hesitantly. So is belief the key? Is that the green light that tells you everything is falling into place? Professor Stone's eyes softened with gratitude. Yes, Janet. Belief opens the way, but it is proven in practice. You often discover your green light by keeping one small promise day after day. Each time you keep it, you teach your own heart and even your nervous system that you are ready for more. The professor paused as the stillness embraced his words. Then he spoke with quiet authority. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, verse 10, says, "He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much." In other words, if you are faithful with little, God will trust you with much. Every follow-through is a seed of trust that grows and opens the next door. Chapter 7. Trusting God's timing. Callan, who had never asked a question before, spoke up. Professor, I get impatient because I want my prayers to be answered right now. Am I the only one? Professor Stone, glad to finally hear from Callan, replied. Everyone knows that feeling. The urge to push can look like courage, yet forcing your prayer is often fear dressed as urgency. Keep this with you. You never arrive late by waiting in wisdom. You only arrive late when you force against wisdom. When fruit is pulled from the branch before its time, the outside of the fruit may look ready, but the inside is bitter. Trust and patience is the ripening. Noah, without hesitation, chimed in. What if I already missed my chance? Professor Stone, with confidence, said, Noah, there is no genuine calling to God that can be stolen from a person who is aligned. God does not misplace your file. Your work is to refine your attention and let the right hour reveal itself. Fellow souls, it is divine timing that you are still here. God is aligning you for what comes next in your life. As you remain until the end of this story, you will begin to feel within that God has always been with you. Sometimes we only need a gentle reminder, and this story is that reminder. Now, let's continue. Chapter 8. The gentle rhythm of God's timing. Professor Stone's voice softened as he leaned into the lecture. There is a rhythm to God's divine timing. Slow, then suddenly. The slow season builds the vessel. The sudden season fills it. What may seem like delay on the surface is really the compound interest of your inner preparation. Think of a river. It gathers its strength in stillness before it releases its power. When the hour comes, what you have prayed for will flow with force. Robin, who was often full of questions, seemed more reserved today. She asked, "Professor, why does it seem like for some people that their desires appear overnight?" Professor Stone smiled gently. "Yes, it can look like instant manifestation. But what you do not see is the years of hidden work, the seasons of quiet alignment that prepared the way." Neville Goddard reminded us that the outer world mirrors the inner assumption, and Napoleon Hill taught that definitive purpose draws power. In due season, we reap what we focus on, whether it be light or shadow, hope or fear. Chapter 9. God's Flow of Abundance. The room grew still, every student leaning in with quiet intensity, as if the entire class was tuned to the same frequency. Elena lifted her voice first. "But how does all of this truly apply to healing?" Professor Stone's gaze softened as he replied, "Elena, your body responds to compassion and steady truth. This is why it is so important to speak kindly to your own cells, to honor rest, to follow practical guidance, and to ask each day what would be loving for my body right now. Healing is nurtured like a garden. You prepare the soil, plant the seed, tend it, nourish it, wait, and in time you reap." Jamal leaned in, his question ready. "What about wealth, Professor? How do I align with that?" Professor Stone nodded. "Wealth is not only money. Wealth is the flow of value through your life. You create value with clarity and service. You steward value with order. You share value with generosity. Class, I invite you into the frequency of prosperity. Embrace 5 minutes each day to align your mind with your desires, as if they are already here. Picture yourself spending with ease, knowing money is steadily flowing back into your account. Let joy anchor this vision. Think of a river. As it widens and deepens, it clears what once blocked its way. Your manifestation is the river. The obstacles are the old self-defeating thoughts about wealth." Emily, sitting on the edge of her seat, spoke with conviction. "Professor, what about people in your life who do not respect your boundaries, even though you still love them?" Professor Stone turned toward her, his expression tender. "Emily, love is both honest and kind. You can forgive and still say, 'This behavior is not welcome in my life.' That is not cold. That is wisdom. When you hold both truth and tenderness, relationships either rise to meet your truth or gently release, making space for what is aligned. Practice this every day. See yourself surrounded by wealth in all its forms. See yourself walking with people who lift you, not drain you. And with the steady determination of a soul who knows her worth, allow your desires to become the majority of your thoughts." Chapter 10. To everything there is a season. Noah raised his hand, his voice carrying both hesitation and hope. "I have doubted for years. Is it too late for me to change?" Professor Stone nodded slowly, his gaze steady. "Noah, it is never too late to come into alignment. Today can be a new page." Carl Jung reminds us to bring what is hidden into awareness. Start with a single pattern. Name it with compassion. Choose one new response. Practice it for 1 week. And remember, even the smallest hinge can swing wide a heavy door. Maya leaned forward, her voice tender with sincerity. "Professor, I listened to your lecture, How to Train Your Thoughts and Transform Your Life with Affirmations, and it changed my life. That is why I am here today. What affirmation can you share with us now to carry us through this waiting season?" Professor Stone smiled with gratitude. "Yes, Maya, that was a powerful lecture, and I encourage everyone here to listen to it after class. The link is in the description. But for this moment, I want you to write these affirmations down. Speak them aloud or let them rest in your heart." The professor walked toward the whiteboard and wrote each line slowly, pausing to let the words sink in. "I trust that God's timing is perfect, and every season in my life carries purpose. I am worthy, whole, and becoming the person who can hold every blessing prepared for me. My world reflects peace, love, and abundance because I choose to walk in alignment with God. As the words lingered in the air, Elena lifted her hand. I love these affirmations. Do you have any that reflect the Bible? Professor Stone lifted his voice so that every heart in the room could take hold of the truth. In the Bible, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 tells us that for everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Nothing in your life is random. Every waiting, every rising, every moment has its appointed hour. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31 says that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting is not about sitting idle. It is about aligning your spirit, keeping faith alive, and letting God breathe new energy into your soul until you soar again like eagles. And Romans chapter 8 verse 28 assures us that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to God's purpose. Even what feels like delay, even what looks like setback, is being woven into something greater when you stay aligned with God's calling. So remember this: your seasons are purposeful, your waiting is renewing, and your purpose is guiding everything toward good. Jamal leaned forward, curiosity alive in his voice. Professor, after all, you are a philosophy teacher. How about some wisdom from philosophy? Professor Stone's eyes lit with delight. Perfect. Plato reminds us that the beginning is the most important part of the work. And that beginning starts with a single thought, carried with focus, like a laser beam of light guiding the way. Chapter 11. The unfolding of God's lessons in your life. Professor Stone turned to the whiteboard and wrote with care, offering his students a simple yet powerful practice. Choose one boundary. Keep it firm. Choose one truth. Speak it gently. Choose one small win. Celebrate it fully. And affirm to yourself, today I keep my promise. The room entered a warm stillness, a quiet glow of alignment filling the lecture hall. As the class drew to a close, something had shifted. The skeptical questions softened. The curious hearts opened. The room felt bright, lit from the inside out. Noah raised his hand once more. I think I am starting to see it. The delay was not wasting my time. It was forming me. Professor Stone's shoulders softened as he replied, Exactly, Noah. Slow, and then suddenly, your life responds to the alignment of your thoughts. When you live as the person who can hold God's gift, you no longer chase. You allow, and in the stillness of your mind, your thoughts begin to recognize you. Gathering his notes, the professor closed with a final invitation. Today, carry the part of this story that touched your heart into the hours ahead. Practice one boundary. Practice one truth. Celebrate one small win. Know that your life is already responding to your thoughts, your prayers, and most of all, know that God is listening, working quietly behind the scenes. He paused, letting the words rest before he spoke once more. Repeat this affirmation as you live in your truth. I am who I am, and that is all that I am. Free to be me. A tender smile crossed his face as he added, A beautiful place to grow is through stories like this, here on Awaken Light Energy. Continue with us in the next story, because sometimes it just takes a simple story to spark something real. Before we go, ask yourself, what seed of your desires will you plant today? See you in the stillness. If this story spoke to you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and remember to click the bell so you always hear a new story. And if you know someone who could use this message, share it with them. Because sometimes, a simple story is all it takes to spark something real.